For independent and dependent variables, we also have multivariables, but we'll go over that in a second. An independent variable is a symbol that represents an input of a function. A dependent variable is a symbol that represents an output of a function. You can think of it as the independent, it's going to be, whatever we decide it to be. It's independent of itself, right? Now, the output kind of depends on the rest of the problem. So the output depends on that independent variable. And multivariable function is a function that consists of more than one variable. And we'll get into that later, but essentially if we have more than just x's and y's, that is a multivariable function. So let's look at this. For number one, what is the independent and what's the dependent variable? Well, it can be either, but typically we plug things into x, right? So x is going to be independent and y is going to depend on our x. Okay, I made a mistake on this one right here. That should not be 4. It should be equal to x. So what's the independent and dependent? Well, our dependent is still going to be y and our independent is going to be x. Now what about this one right here? Well, the dependent is going to be f of x again. F of x is really just like y, and x is independent. Now this one is where it gets a little bit different. So what is the dependent variable for this one? It is not y this time. Since we're taking the derivative of this x, this is really going to be like dx over dy. And whenever we have something like this, the top is always the dependent and the bottom is always independent. So this is dependent, and this is independent. So what about this dx dy down here? Well, same thing. X is going to be the dependent and y is going to be the independent. And that's how we would look at independent, dependent variables, and just a little note on multivariables functions.